Before we get into today's video, first a big thanks to our sponsors at NordVPN. Get 70% off by going to nordvpn.com/censoredgaming or checking out the link in the description. NordVPN allows you to surf the web as if you were located in over 60 countries, meaning you can bypass filters and regional restrictions. It also keeps your internet data secure so you get safe when browsing, and they are one of the few companies that have a strict no data logging policy. It's available for mobile as well as PC, and it's been consistently voted the best VPN service around. So again, get a huge 70% off by going to nordvpn.com/censoredgaming or checking out the link in the description. And even more, get an extra month for free by using the code censoredgaming at checkout. Today we'll be taking a look at Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses, which was a game for the PlayStation 2 that added a very unique twist to the regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Card battling mechanics. Rather than the traditional duels seen in the anime, trading card game and most other video games, here gameplay uses a grid-based system that's similar in nature to chess. The game also moves away from the norm with its story, with it being set in 15th century England and loosely based on the real-life Wars of the Roses. The Duelist of the Roses was a huge commercial success for Konami and sold over 1 million copies worldwide. But like the channel has reported on numerous times in the past, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a franchise that tends to see many different changes when it is brought from Japan to other parts of the world. And so this video will be taking a look at some of these changes that were made to the Duelist of the Roses outside of Japan. The first thing to bring up can be seen on the game's title screen, with the Japanese version on the left having quite a different design to the English release. Furthermore, you may also notice that the Japanese game's name has a number 2 at the end of it. This is due to a curious change that was made to the game overseas, where it was marketed as a completely new game, whereas over in Japan it was actually marketed as a sequel to Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories for the PlayStation 1. Moving on to the battles, unfortunately Western versions of the game ended up missing out on quite a bit of flavor text from the numerous deck leaders. In the Japanese version, the deck leaders would have dialogue when duels begin, when you win, and when you lose. There is also deck leader advice text whenever you remain idle for a period of time. All of this was removed overseas, and this was likely to try and cut down on the translation work. There was also various changes made to graphics to remove religious references, which is something the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise is known for doing outside of Japan due to differing attitudes towards religious sensitivity. For instance, the symbol of the white rose, which represents one of the game's 2 factions, was originally a religious looking white cross symbol over in Japan. In the English release, this was changed to a sword symbol, and this is something that you'll be able to find displayed throughout many different parts of the game. This philosophy also saw any hexagram symbols removed, such as this hexagram that can be found at the center of Stonehenge. The character Shadi also had a type of cross symbol displayed on his hat, with this being removed outside of Japan as well. Next up is a change that will likely be surprising for those of you already familiar with the English version of the game. Following defeating the leader of the Yorkists, Richard III, you are shown this cutscene which depicts the final battle of the Wars of the Roses. It then cuts to a caption which says "sometime later," and then the scene displays Richard's fallen helmet, signifying his defeat in battle. Then in the distance you can see the victors taking the helmet and crowning the new leader. Over in Japan, however, this scene was very different. Whilst it starts the same, showing the Wars of the Roses final moments, it then cuts to an entirely different depiction of the defeated Richard. In the Japanese version, you can actually see Richard's mangled corpse, complete with a pool of blood coming out of his torso. The scene then continues to pan before finally coming back to the close-up of the fallen helmet. The changes don't end there though. In the next scene, the camera shows other fallen warriors from the battle, and then the final shot of the victors in the background is left zoomed out, unlike the English version. That is by no means the biggest change made to the English release of the game, however. As Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans will already be familiar with, many of the actual cards get changed for the English versions of Yu-Gi-Oh! Media to tone down anything that could be seen as inappropriate for younger audiences. This is a practice that has been in place ever since the franchise's anime and trading card game beginnings back in the early 2000s, and this is something that continues even up until the present day. Thus, in instances where things would be toned down in other media, the game received similar changes, and considering there's almost 1,000 cards, there's many different changes that can be found. Furthermore, considering Duelists of the Roses displayed 3D models for all of the cards, the changes are even more apparent than it just affecting the card artwork. There's far too many to go into them all here, but for some examples, here are 10 from one of the game's starter decks. The game has a variety of different starter decks that you can pick, but here we'll be taking a look at the Injection Fairy Lily starter deck, where Injection Fairy Lily herself actually also had some changes made outside of Japan. As shown with the Japanese version on the left and the English version on the right, the red liquid in the needle was changed to green overseas due to it resembling blood and violent imagery concerns. Furthermore, the Red Cross symbol on her hat was changed to a heart. This is due to the Red Cross organization owning the copyright for this symbol and not wanting to run into any legal issues. Next is Lamoon, where her top was extended all the way up her torso to reduce the suggestive imagery and make it more child friendly. Then there's Ill Witch, who was actually naked in the Japanese version, albeit highly transparent and lacking any graphic details. The English version though removed the transparency effect and gave her clothing. Canon, the sword mistress, had her armor redesigned outside of Japan so that it lacked protruding cup-shaped plates on the chest area. And Nekogao number 1 originally only wore a thong in the Japanese version, whereas overseas the thong is kept but worn over spats, keeping things much more modest outside of Japan. Next up is Harpy Lady, a fan favourite who has, like other appearances in the West, had her entire upper body covered in clothing. Luna Queen Elzame for some reason not only had her outfit lengthened and bust reduced, but her clothing was also recolored pink outside of Japan instead of a peach-like colour. And then for the last 3 examples, first is Dancing Elf, who had her outfit lengthened to cover more of her cleavage area. This is followed by Ice Water, who was given a different top outside of Japan to keep her upper body more covered up. And then the last example is Red Archery Girl, who's a mermaid and had much more clothing added to her upper body and had her lower body scales extended upwards to cover her hips and belly button. One other thing to point out as well is that similar changes were made to the actual card artwork as well, as shown here. What do you think about the changes made to the Duelist of the Roses outside of Japan? As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and once again a big thanks to our faithful sponsors at NordVPN. There'll be a link in the description if you want to go check their big discount out, and until next time, thank you for watching.